The restricted rights of consumers and citizens due to a lack of responsibilities from food production has existed since the medieval ages. Safety was looked over easily during the early days, often leading to thousands of food poisoning cases. Yet, up until the last few centuries, nothing stopped its misconduct. No change, no new laws, nothing. Under the situation regarding ignorance towards consumer rights to food and drug safety, however, were food activists devoting their lives to spark change. They did so through decades of uphill battles with the government and public opinion to shame the past, honor the present, and preserve the future of America's health. This ultimately led to the ratification of the Pure Food and Drug Act in 1906, which forever changed the course of consumer rights and manufacturer responsibilities. As food adulteration and drug manipulation began to ramp up in the early 19th century, more and more casualties were recorded. Friedrich Ackham, a German scientist based in London, was the first to expose food adulteration in his book, A Treatise on Adulterations of Food and Methods of Detecting Them, thereby sparking awareness for food safety regulation. Initially, his work drew little attention until a fatal arsenic poisoning incident involving children's candy in Bradford, England in 1858 killed around 20 and sickened over 200. Around the same time, London doctor Arthur Hassel reported 40 cases of child food poisoning linked to cheap candies. These events prompted the British government to take action, leading to the enactment of the 1875 Sale of Food and Drugs Act, which regulated the UK's food industry and protected consumer rights. As the Gilded Age in America saw people, governments, and corporations more eager to accumulate capital rather than to ensure people's rights, especially in terms of food and drug safety, consumer rights to safe products were not always protected. Unlike the UK, it took significant sacrifices and efforts from many to compel the US government and manufacturers to take responsibility. During the Mexican-American War, significant food and drug adulteration issues emerged, with soldiers relying heavily on military-issued medicines. The war's end revealed a startling 10-to-1 ratio of non-combat to combat deaths. It was discovered that the high number of casualties was largely due to the soldiers being given adulterated drugs. In the 1850s, a significant agricultural scandal was revealed, when dairy farms were found to be feeding their cows swill, the waste left over from whiskey production, causing the cattle to become sick and produce milk devoid of any nutritional value despite higher yields. This practice led to the death of over 8,000 infants in New York City within a year. The swill milk scandal highlighted the desperate greed of producers and the violation of both animal welfare and consumer safety rights. During 19th century urbanization in the US, inadequate food transport and preservation led to frequent spoilage, restricting urban consumer rights and causing widespread malnutrition. Food safety issues not only restrict the export of US food and drugs, but also cause a significant number of illnesses and deaths domestically. Therefore, there is an urgent need for oversight and responsibility in ensuring the safety of food and drugs in the United States. Dr. Harvey Washington Wiley, born in Kenland, Indiana, was among the first to take on the responsibility of addressing food safety. While teaching at Purdue University, he began analyzing food ingredients and focusing on food adulteration. In 1901, he was appointed the first chief of the Bureau of Chemistry. Dr. Wiley balanced laboratory research on food additives with nationwide public speaking engagements to raise awareness about food safety among citizens and to advocate for responsible manufacturing practices. His efforts inspired Alice Lakey, a women's activist, to spread the message in women's communities, writing about food safety for magazines and rallying millions of women to write letters in support of food and drug safety legislation. Amid the constant lobbying of food manufacturers and the barrage of advertisements for patented drugs, Dr. Wiley's speech had little impact. In order to warn the public about the risks of food additives, he decided to conduct practical experiments. With the support of President Roosevelt, the Poison Squad experiment was launched. Dr. Wiley first created campaigns for young, healthy men to be experimented on. Many young men sent letters to Wiley requesting to be employed for the experiment. After employing 12 men free of disease and illness in the last year, the official borax experiment began. William R. Carter, the cook of Dr. Wiley's Poison Squad, added borax into butter, milk, and coffee, and formaldehyde into red meat. Wiley would request to continuously add more amounts of chemicals in each meal. Eventually, the men being experimented on noticed the added preservatives in the food prepared, and they began to suffer stomach aches, vomiting, and dizziness. The Poison Squad proved to be extremely influential towards the public opinion on food safety, as the public grew to be more aware of the intoxicating chemicals and preservatives commonly added to food. Through the Poison Squad's experiments, food and drug safety was brought to light, and this received extensive and mounting attention throughout the United States. But despite the growing public concern over food safety and the numerous demands for food safety legislation received by the US government, this bill, which concerns the health of Americans, has yet to be enacted. From the perspective of President Roosevelt, he was known for campaigning progressive ideals to address challenges arising from the nation's transition from an agrarian to urban industrial society. Yet, his enthusiasm for the pure food legislation was somewhat tepid. From the perspective of food and drug manufacturers, shortcuts such as adulteration of food were still beneficial to their economical profits. Manufacturers still showed interest in manipulating their production in hopes of lucrative upswings. From the perspective of female groups, women used to be the main operator of shopping in families, and after learning about the additives found in food commonly found on grocery lists, they were filled with resentment. Women's groups such as the Women's Christian Temperance Union and General Federation of Women's Clubs instantly sent hundreds of letters to the government in hopes of swift reform. Some pioneering magazines discovered the importance of food and drug safety and actively rejected these advertisements. Among them were Ladies' Home Journal and Collier's, who published many articles on drug exposés. This was all in hopes of, as Edward Bach, an author of these magazines, said, a federal food and drug law that required labeling of hazardous chemicals. When Upton Sinclair, an American author, published The Jungle on November 4, 1905, exposing America's meatpacking manufacturers, people were shocked. For the first time, people became aware that the meat products they consumed might originate from filthy slaughterhouses, and even sausages could be tainted with the remains of diseased humans. A widespread awakening to the self-preservation of consumer rights began to take hold among the public. With tons of letters reaching Roosevelt on nationwide issues, he finally held the responsibilities of companies accountable. In his message to Congress at the year's end, he wanted a law to regulate interstate commerce in adulterated or misbranded food, drink, and drugs. June 30th, 1906, Roosevelt signed the first major law on consumer safety, the Pure Food and Drug Act, into law, formally prohibiting wholesale of adulterated food and drugs, granting freedom in consumer rights. This act provided consumers the ability to visualize safety regulations attached to food and drugs, ensuring their well-being. This law also required manufacturers to maintain responsibility with their products. They had to list all ingredients used, including threatening chemicals and their possible side effects, labeled properly. The activities carried out by the Chemical Department to protect the public's food and drug safety included checking for mislabeling by sampling products, inspecting manufacturing factories, and analyzing toxic chemicals. The department often took samples of food and drugs for sale to test its safety and had checkups often on large-scale companies to ensure their responsibilities for food cleanliness were being upheld. With the passage of the 1906 Food and Drug Act, the responsibilities of individuals, from scientists examining toxic chemicals to public health advocates raising awareness, were fulfilled. After the law was approved, there were many positive effects as a result. Citizens of America had their consumer rights liberated. They could now understand the food they were eating and the medicine they were being prescribed, providing them with a sense of protection. The basis of the Pure Food and Drug Act of 1906 also led to the development of the Food and Drug Administration, which is still present and vital today. Since its beginnings, the administration has played an important role in health regulation and America's safety. To this day, the FDA continues to carry the responsibility of protecting America's health, playing a crucial role in ensuring food and drug safety through regulating medical devices, responding to health emergencies, and overseeing scientific research with international cooperation. The FDA has ensured the American public has the privilege to safe and effective food and drugs, contributing to nationwide health security. Protecting public health and consumers' rights is no longer just the responsibility of food safety pioneers. In the present, the duty has been left in the hands of individuals, governments, businesses, and institutions.